What if the thoughts you have each day didn't just influence your mood, but were actually shaping your entire life, second by second? What if your thoughts weren't just automatic responses to what happens to you, but the invisible seeds of everything that's about to happen? Take a moment and really think about this. Each person lives a different reality, even when they share the same space, the same city, or even the same home. Why is that? Because we don't see the world as it is, we see it through the lens of how we think. And that lens is shaped by our inner dialogue, our beliefs, our mental habits. Your thoughts are the mental architecture of your experience. Every word you repeat in your mind, every belief you carry without questioning, every silent conversation you have with yourself, these are the commands you're giving the universe to build the life you're about to live. This isn't magic. It's mental programming. And you are the programmer. From childhood, we absorb ideas, concepts, values, and beliefs from our parents, teachers, TV, and now social media. Most of the time, we absorb them without filters. And that early programming becomes the foundation of our daily thinking. The problem? Nobody taught us that we can rewrite that programming, that we have the power to choose what we think, and therefore, the power to transform our lives from the inside out. Here's the big secret. You become what you think. If you think you're capable, you start to act like someone who's capable. If you think you're not worthy, you start to live as if that were true, even though it's not. And the world responds to you based on the energy you project from your mind. Want to change your life? Start by changing your thoughts. And to do that, you must first become aware of them. Are you aware of what you think in a day? Of how you speak to yourself when something goes wrong? Of the stories you silently tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of? Most people aren't, which is why they live on autopilot, reacting, not choosing, surviving, not creating. But you're not most people. You're here because something inside you wants more. And that more starts right here, by awakening your mental awareness. Part 2. The mind as mirror and magnet. Everything that surrounds you, what you've achieved or haven't, the people in your life, your habits, your most frequent emotions, is not random. It's a mirror reflecting your most consistent thoughts. Your mind is extraordinary. It has the ability to turn the invisible into the visible. It transforms ideas into reality. It turns beliefs into limits or into wings. But here's something even more powerful. Your mind isn't just a mirror. It's also a magnet. A magnet. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And what you are is made of what you think most often, with emotion, intensity, and repetition. Your reality is not built on occasional inspiration. It's built on repeated thought. Whatever you repeat to yourself every day, whether with hope or with fear, you're planting it like a seed. And your life is just the garden growing from those seeds. And the universe listens. If your mind is filled with scarcity, fear, or doubt, you'll attract more situations that reinforce that energy. If your thoughts vibrate with confidence, gratitude, joy, and trust, you'll attract experiences that match those frequencies too. This isn't superstition. It's vibration. Each thought carries a frequency. That frequency produces an emotion. That emotion fuels your behavior, your words, your posture, your voice, your decisions. And all of that sends out energy that either draws in or pushes away opportunities, people, and outcomes. The cycle is constant. But most people don't even realize it's happening. They believe their thoughts are just reactions to life, when in fact, their thoughts are creating their life. The real problem is this. No one teaches us to observe our thoughts. No one tells us that the internal dialogue we repeat every day is the engine steering our entire life. We're taught how to behave, how to follow rules, how to fit in. But we're not taught how to think in a way that creates. We're not taught to use our mind as a tool. We're not trained to treat thoughts as bricks with which we build our reality. That's why so many people feel stuck in frustration, anxiety, or resignation. Because they believe they can't do anything about it. Because they identify with their thoughts, as if those thoughts were absolute truths and not what they really are, just habitual mental impulses. But here's the liberating truth. You are not your thoughts. And if you are not your thoughts, then you can choose them. And if you can choose them, then you can change your story. This doesn't mean you should pretend problems don't exist. It means becoming conscious of what you think and asking yourself, does this thought bring me closer or further from who I want to be? Is this thought empowering or limiting? Is it coming from fear or from truth? That's your compass. And just like with any form of training, it's not about doing it perfectly. It's about doing it more and more consciously, a little better each day. When you begin to live with this level of awareness, things begin to change. First within you, then in your surroundings. People start responding to you differently. Opportunities appear where before you saw only dead ends. Not because the world changed, but because you are seeing it with a different mind. That's the key. You become what you think, but only when you take ownership of your thoughts. That is what makes all the difference. And the best part? You don't need anyone's permission to begin. You don't need a special moment. You just need to make a new decision today. I choose to think with purpose. I choose to create my life, thought by thought. And in that simple choice, your entire future can begin to shift. Part 3. The silent battle between autopilot and consciousness. There are two ways to live life. With a sleeping mind or with a mind that's awake. Most people live with a sleeping mind. They're trapped in routines, habits, and beliefs they never question. They repeat emotions they don't understand, make decisions that don't feel like their own, and react to life instead of choosing how to live it. That's what we call autopilot. Autopilot feels safe. It gives the illusion of control, even when there is none. It's a mental state where your thoughts run on loops like old recordings you can't pause. You wake up, do the same things, think the same thoughts, feel the same feelings, react the same way, and then wonder why nothing in your life is changing. But autopilot isn't natural. It's learned. And anything that's been learned can be unlearned. Every mental pattern can be rewritten. Every conditioning can be reprogrammed. But to do that, you need to wake up. You need to shift from being a passenger to becoming the driver. Waking up doesn't mean being perfect. It means being conscious. It means becoming aware of what you think, what you feel, what you do, and why you do it. Ask yourself this. How many of your decisions are truly yours? How many of your thoughts are just echoes from childhood, from family, from fear? How often do you react out of emotion instead of responding with intention? That's the power of unconscious thinking. It controls you without your awareness. But the moment you bring light to it, the spell breaks. You begin to notice the invisible strings that have been pulling you. You see clearly that much of what you thought was reality was just a mental story, a story you can now choose to rewrite. Think of your mind like a house you've lived in for years. A house with rooms filled with old thoughts, dusty beliefs, broken ideas. The windows are dirty. The light barely gets in. You know the space by heart, but it no longer inspires you. It no longer represents who you are. Now imagine this. You can renovate it. You can open the windows, let the sunlight in. You can tear down the walls that confine you and build new ones that support you. You can clean, paint, rearrange, design. You can make your mind a place where you want to live, where you want to grow, to dream, to create. That process starts with one simple act. Observing your thoughts. Yes, just that. Observe without judgment. Observe without reacting. Observe with curiosity. Try now. Just close your eyes. Take a breath. Listen to your thoughts. What are you thinking? Where does that thought come from? Is it yours or is it inherited? Does it help you or hurt you? Just by doing this, you're already changing your programming. You're stepping out of autopilot. You're switching into creator mode. You're reclaiming your right to think differently. You're no longer a victim of your mental habits. You're becoming the director of your mind. And that is freedom. Not the false kind of freedom that means doing whatever you want whenever you want, but the real kind, the kind that allows you to choose your thoughts, your emotions, and your reactions. The kind that lets you decide whether you live from the wound or from the healing, from fear or from love, from complaint or from gratitude, from guilt or from compassion. That's where your power lives. And yes, you will fall back sometimes. You'll go back to autopilot. You'll catch yourself thinking the same old things. You'll judge yourself. You'll forget what you've learned. It's okay. The point is not to never fall. The point is, how quickly do you realize it, and how quickly do you return to yourself? Every time you return, you grow stronger. Every time you choose again, you're reprogramming your mind. You're laying the foundation for a new way of thinking and a new way of living. Remember, your mind is a garden. You can let weeds grow by default, or you can start planting with intention. Every thought is a seed. Are you planting fear, or are you planting trust? Are you planting doubt, or are you planting purpose? Are you planting resentment, or are you planting peace? Choose wisely, because what you think today becomes your life tomorrow. Part 4. Rewriting your reality. The power of conscious repetition. You may not realize it, but everything you know how to do today, walking, speaking, reading, driving, cooking, working, even loving or distrusting, was learned through one powerful tool: repetition. Repetition is how the brain learns, stores, and automates. And while that may sound technical, it's actually something deeply spiritual and transformational once you truly understand it. Repetition is the tool your mind uses to shape your reality. And here's the most important part: repetition doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're repeating thoughts of greatness or thoughts of self-sabotage. It doesn't care if you're affirming your power or your pain. Your mind records whatever you repeat, no questions asked. And that means if you're not consciously choosing what you repeat, you'll unconsciously repeat what others have planted in you. You'll repeat your family's fears, society's labels, your childhood wounds, the shame you never questioned, the self-doubt you mistook for truth. And what you repeat becomes what you believe. And what you believe becomes how you live. And how you live reinforces those beliefs. And the cycle continues. But here's the breakthrough. If unconscious repetition got you here, then conscious repetition can take you somewhere new. So how do you start? First, listen closely to the phrases you say to yourself most often. They usually show up in moments of challenge, failure, fear, or self-doubt. Phrases like, "I always mess this up. I'm not good at this. This is too hard. I'll probably fail. Why bother trying?" Write them down. Look at them. Don't fight them. Just recognize them. These aren't truths. They're old echoes of a story that's run its course. Now it's time to write a new story. And that story begins with new phrases, new affirmations. And repeating them with the same intensity as you repeated the old ones. Try phrases like, "I get better every day. I deserve good things. I am enough and I'm still growing. I am learning. I am evolving. I trust myself even when I'm uncertain." But this isn't about repeating empty words. It's about feeling them, imagining them, visualizing them. Your mind learns better when emotion is involved. So if you want your affirmations to work, give them soul. Picture yourself living them. Feel the scene. Hear your voice. See yourself becoming that person. Do it every day. Out loud. In silence. Written down. in front of a mirror, before bed, right after waking up. Do it until it doesn't feel fake anymore. Do it until your mind begins to accept it as normal. Do it until you realize you're no longer pretending, you've already become that person. Remember, no one transforms overnight. Change doesn't happen in a magical instant. It happens in a series of small choices, repeated over and over again. Each time you choose a new thought, you strengthen a new neural pathway. You're carving out a new trail your mind can walk more easily. And eventually, that trail becomes the new automatic. That's the miracle of conscious repetition. It turns the hard into the familiar, the new into the normal, the imagined into the real. This is more than psychology. This is mental alchemy. It's the art of turning the lead of negative thought into the gold of expansive belief. But like any art, it takes patience and compassion. You will slip into old thinking sometimes. You will forget. You will fall back into habits. That's okay. Don't punish yourself. Don't judge. Just return, gently and firmly, to the thought you want to grow. Your mind doesn't need a warden. It needs a wise, loving guide. And that's who you are becoming. Every time you catch a negative phrase and replace it, you take a step forward. Every time you choose love over fear in your thoughts, you gain strength. Every time you act from the belief that you are worthy and capable, you change the story. Because you are not your thoughts, but you are shaped by what you think most often. So what will you repeat today? What story will you choose to reinforce? Will it be the one others gave you, or the one you were born to write? Because yes, you become what you think. And now that you know, you get to choose. Part 5. Your inner dialogue, the narrator that shapes your identity. Every single day, there's a voice inside you that speaks. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it shouts. Sometimes it encourages you. Other times, it tears you down. That voice is your inner dialogue. And while we rarely pause to listen to it consciously, it's always there, quietly shaping the story you believe about yourself. That voice decides whether you feel capable or broken. It decides whether you take a leap or stay small. Whether you trust yourself or sabotage every step forward. Your inner voice isn't just mental chatter. It's the narrator of your identity. And here's the beautiful truth, that narrator can be re-educated. Now imagine this. What if that inner voice were another person? Someone walking next to you all day long, saying the exact same things you say to yourself. What if they kept saying things like, "You're going to fail. You're not good enough. You always mess up. You'll never get there. You don't matter"? Would you accept a friend like that in your life? Would you listen to them every time they spoke? Most likely not. And yet, when those words come from inside your own mind, you accept them. You believe them. You obey them. Because you've heard them for so long, they've started to feel familiar. And what's familiar becomes true, even when it isn't. But that voice is not truth. It's a habit, a mental loop formed over time, built from past wounds, childhood conditioning, and unhealed stories. That voice is not who you are. It's who you've been told you are. But you are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your trauma. You are a being in constant evolution, and you have the power to change your narrative. So what if, starting today, you taught that voice to speak to you differently? What if, instead of tearing yourself down, you began to treat yourself like someone worth loving? Like a friend worth encouraging? Like a soul worth protecting? You don't have to lie to yourself. You don't have to fake joy. You just have to speak to yourself with the same compassion you'd offer someone you love. When you speak to yourself kindly, you feel better. When you feel better, you act better. When you act better, your results shift. And when your results shift, so does your reality. It all begins with a thought, with a phrase, with a whisper that says, "I'm learning. I don't need to be perfect to grow. It's okay to fall and rise again. I'm proud of my effort, even if it's messy. I matter. I'm trying." Say it daily. Say it often. Say it like it matters, because it does. The goal isn't to silence every critical thought. It's to make sure they're not the ones holding the microphone. It's to put your conscious, loving self back in charge of the story. Because the way you speak to yourself becomes the way you see yourself. And the way you see yourself defines what you think you deserve. And what you think you deserve defines what you allow into your life. So no, it's not just a thought. It's the foundation of everything. Speaking to yourself with love is not optional. It's essential. It's the foundation for self-respect. It's the path to emotional strength. It's the root of confidence. So pause. Place your hand on your heart and repeat this to yourself. I am my greatest ally. My voice is kind. My thoughts support me. I am growing, I am learning, and I deserve to be spoken to with respect, especially by myself. Repeat, 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 until your mind understands that it's no longer time to destroy you. It's time to build you. Because yes, you become what you think. But more importantly, you become what you say to yourself when no one else is listening. Part 6. Thought, Emotion, and Action. The creative triangle of your destiny. There's something no one teaches us in school, yet it's the foundation of every real transformation. Every thought creates an emotion. Every emotion drives an action. And every action, repeated over time, builds a reality. This triangle, thought, emotion, action, is the invisible map that guides your life. Every time you think something, your body responds. Think about fear and your pulse changes. Think about joy and your energy shifts. Even if nothing is happening on the outside, your internal world is reacting. Your thoughts don't stay in your mind. They become chemicals in your body. They influence your mood, your behavior, your posture, your voice, your energy. And all of that shapes your actions. Because we don't act based on logic alone. We act based on how we feel. And how we feel depends on how we think. That's why if you want to change your life, you must first change your thoughts. Because when you change your thoughts, you change your emotions. When you change your emotions, you change your actions. And when you change your actions, you begin to build a new reality. But this isn't about obsessively controlling every thought. That's not realistic. That's not human. It's about learning to direct your attention. And where your attention goes, your energy flows. Ask yourself honestly, where does your attention usually go? To what's missing or what's present? To what scares you or what excites you? To what went wrong or to what you learned? To what others think or to what you want to feel? That choice, small as it may seem, builds your life moment by moment. And this brings us to something powerful, emotional self-regulation. When you understand that you can shift your internal state with a single thought, you are no longer a slave to your circumstances. You're no longer reacting automatically. You're no longer at the mercy of every external event. You become conscious. You become present. You become free. But freedom doesn't mean never feeling negative emotions. It means you no longer let those emotions make your decisions. It means you feel your anger and still choose how to respond. You feel your fear and still choose to move forward. You feel your doubt and still choose self-trust. That's personal leadership. That's real power. And something magical happens when your thoughts, emotions, and actions all move in the same direction. You enter a state of coherence. Coherence is when you think with clarity, feel with alignment, and act with intention. It doesn't mean you have it all figured out. It means you're showing up fully, truthfully, consciously. And coherence is magnetic. Coherent people don't need to prove anything. They don't chase, they attract. Because their energy speaks louder than their words. They walk into a room and you can feel it. They know who they are. They're not perfect, but they're real. They're not invincible, but they're intentional. And that's what gives them presence. Can you imagine living that way? Waking up each day knowing that you are walking in alignment with your values, your vision, your truth. Thinking thoughts that empower you. Feeling emotions that fuel you. Taking actions that move you forward. That's not a fantasy. That's a possibility. And it begins with something so simple. It begins with choosing your next thought. Maybe you can't change everything today, but you can choose a thought that lifts you. You can focus on a possibility instead of a problem. You can give yourself permission to move forward, even if yesterday was messy. Because here's the final secret. You don't have to wait to feel ready to think differently. It's thinking differently that will make you feel ready. You're not your past. You're not your failures. You're not your pain. You are the thinker of your thoughts. You are the creator of your patterns. And if you walk this path with clarity, respect, and consistency, there is no limit to who you can become. So breathe, place a hand over your chest, and say quietly, I'm free to choose. Free to think with intention. Free to direct my emotions. Free to create my life. Because yes, Part 7. The awakening of your creative mind. You've made it this far. And that means something. It means something deep inside you is ready. Ready to think differently. Ready to live with intention. Ready to remember a truth that has always been yours. You are the creator of your reality. Not through luck. Not through chance. Not through shortcuts or tricks. But through your thoughts. Through your choices. Through your daily mental habits. You become what you think. And now that you know that, really know it, it's no longer possible to live the same way. Because from this point on, every thought carries weight. Every word you say to yourself matters. Every emotion you nurture is building your path. Every action is a vote for the person you are becoming. Your mind is not your enemy. It's not a cage. It's a field, a garden, a sacred space. And you are the gardener. You get to choose what seeds you plant. You get to choose what you water. You get to choose what you allow to grow. And if you've been planting fear, you can now plant courage. If you've been planting doubt, you can now plant trust. If you've been planting pain, you can now plant healing. This is your invitation to observe more, to judge less, to speak to yourself with kindness, to lead yourself with clarity, to think on purpose. You don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing. Willing to grow. Willing to let go. Willing to start again, thought by thought, step by step. Because transformation is not a moment. It's a process. It's not a destination. It's a decision you make daily. And here's the most important part. You don't need to wait for life to push you. You don't need a breakdown to begin a breakthrough. You don't need pain to awaken. You just need to remember that you're allowed to think differently. You're allowed to dream again. You're allowed to believe in yourself. You're allowed to become someone new. Not because the old you was broken, but because this version of you is ready for more. So now, before you close this video, pause. Close your eyes. Put a hand over your heart. Take a deep breath. And repeat quietly to yourself, I'm awake. I'm present. I'm creating with every thought. And my future is being shaped now by me. Welcome to your new path. Welcome to your new mind. Welcome to your new life. Because yes, you become what you think.